I think we can start and people are gonna come in. So for everybody to know, this event is being organized by the Tech and Policy Initiative, which is a hub at SIPA, our School of International and Public Affairs, that just unite research events and every professor and student thinking about the intersection of tech and policy. By the Technology and Innovation Student Association, and by Brazil Talk. And we're so happy to have you here. I know Marcus since 2013, 14.
Yeah, something like that, sure.
He's an endeavor entrepreneur, one of the companies that grow faster in Brazil. He has a PhD and he has an amazing story of how he come from an academic background and was able to build this amazing telemedicine startup that is actually the promise to a massive testing of COVID-19 in Brazil right now. So I would love to have your perspective of how was how are you prepared? There's a lot of people talking about how Brazil was, in terms of technology, more prepared because of dengue and Zika and our knowledge building up from those other diseases. How is the process of developing the COVID-19 test? How are you planning now to scale this product to, I think you're starting with São Paulo and Curitiba because of the number of cases, but in the future to all of the country. And I would love to hear your perspective also on what do you think are the challenges and how can you perceive massive testing of COVID-19 in countries, given that today this is our biggest bet to control the spread of the virus, given that the vaccine will take longer to come up.
Yeah, sure. No, sure. Okay, can I start? And so you go through the questions.
Yeah, perfect. And if you have any questions, you can just unmute and ask them.
Okay, perfect. Okay, everybody. First, I'm very glad to be here talking with you guys. It has been a lot of crazy days here with COVID and everything happening in politics. So it's great to stop a little to talk outside for one moment. Our company we have been developing rapid tests for different diseases since 2017, more or less. So we have some experiencing about doing massive testing for other diseases. So on to explain, we created a few years ago this device. We called it High Lab. So it's not a very original name. It's basically the lab from high technology, so High Lab. And the concept is quite simple. You take one capsule like that. You take one drop of blood from patient's finger, put inside the capsule, and basically you put the capsule inside the device. So that's it. The High Lab connects to the internet. It's like an IoT solution, so it connects to the internet. We have artificial intelligence system that analyzes that in real time. And we have a lab here, a clinical lab that also analyzes each sample. So in 15 minutes, we can do different kinds of tests from pregnancy, cholesterol, dengue, Zika, HIV, and COVID-19. So right now, I believe we have like 20 different kinds of tests that we are running in Brazil. And our technology is able to do like 100 of tests. Some of you guys maybe think, okay, Theranos 2.0, okay, because it's quite similar in the concept, but it's totally different, to be honest. So we are using a very traditional biochemistry. So the technology inside the capsules is actually pretty old. So it's not anything very new inside the capsules. What we did actually was using artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things to make easier a process that before you had a lot of people, technicians and things like that work on that. So it's not like it's not a new kind of biochemistry or not like a some very secret technology. It's quite simple, actually. It's basically old biochemistry being analyzed by artificial intelligence. So it's that what we are doing. Well, we have been doing that like since 2017. And actually, I have been working with healthcare since 2004. To be actually, I'm a computer engineer, but I started to working with healthcare in college as an undergraduate student, and basically we founded the company to do telemedicine in 2004. Not a great idea because telemedicine was a pretty some years before the problem, but we started there. And Sergio and I, Sergio is my co-founder. We had some lucky, and we are here today. Well, we had some experience about doing rapid tests. We have been doing that since 2017 in something like 250 different cities in Brazil. So only to you understand the size of the company right now, 8 of the 10 biggest pharmacy chains in Brazil use our technology, and 15 from the 25 biggest pharmacy chains in Brazil use our technology. So basically, we are the only company doing blood tests in pharmacies in Brazil. So we basically invented this market here in the country. And we started to work with coronavirus, with COVID-19 in December, so last year, because we have here a team of experts that try to predict which will be the next disease. So that's some kind of experience that we do here every month. We try to guess, okay, which disease will be a problem in the next months. And in December, I remember that we had three candidates. Two viruses that are happening right now in Amazonia. So they are very similar to dengue, but a little different. And one virus from China. So we had these 3 candidates, and we did what we always do. We send a lot of emails to our partners around the world to talk. Okay, what we are doing about that? What you believe that it will be a problem or not, and things like that. And to be honest, our chief medical officer, he talked, okay, I think this virus from China will be a problem, but he always talk like that. So, okay, it's a problem, but no, let's go that. And after a few weeks, we start to see the numbers growing. And we did some math here, and we realized that, okay, that will be the biggest problem. So I remember that in the beginning of the year, I prepared our business plan for the investors, and I told, okay, we will have to do a test for coronavirus, but and we did that in the beginning of the year, and basically in February. So like 2 months ago, one lab in China, they did a rapid test for coronavirus. So when they published the paper, in the same day they put that, we got the paper here, and we start working pretty hard. We basically worked like 4 weeks in a row with all the team in the lab to prepare our tests as fast as possible. And because we didn't have the disease here happening in a large scale, we have some high labs around the world. So some in China, some in Hong Kong, some in California. And basically we start to use to validate our tests in China using the internet. So a pretty crazy situation. So basically the lab in China, they gather the blood, put inside the capsules, put the capsules inside the high lab, and we did all this validation via internet. And it was quite fun because when we created this remote validation like 3 years ago, it was something like, okay, we could do that, but there is no reason for this technology, but in this year it paid paid the development, and like in 4 weeks we validated the test. We basically tested in like 800 patients, and we got great results. And then I believe we finished the development in March 4th. And we decided to keep that in secret because we thought, okay, it's better to start the production, and after that we go to the market. But 1 week after that, in the Friday 13th, there was a lot of fake news about COVID-19 in Brazil, a lot of information, people very crazy about that. And we had a meeting here, and we decided to communicate the market earlier, okay, before the production, to say, okay, we have a test in Brazil, so please do not become crazy, do not start killing each other. And we did that in March 13. And since that, we have basically been doing a massive production of tests here in Curitiba. And we start doing tests in patients in the beginning of April. So basically April 2 or April 1st, I'm not sure right now. And that's it. I mean, we have been doing a lot of tests all over Brazil. We started in São Paulo and Curitiba, 2 cities, but right now we have tests all over Brazil. We are basically running a lot of tests and trying to cooperate with everybody. So quick history, it's like that. Okay.
Marcus, can you talk a little bit about why do you think countries are having such a difficulty in doing this massive testing of COVID-19?
Yes. Okay. Oh, that's a tricky question. I think because COVID-19, it's a very crazy virus. I mean, it's very different from anything that we faced before, because we are talking about a great transmission rate. I mean, it transmits very easily, but on the other hand, he kills a lot of people. So it's not something that normally happens, because normally you have something like influenza that transmits a lot, but does not kill a lot of people. And you have something like Ebola. Ebola kills a lot of people, but because Ebola kills a lot of people, you do not have a very expressive transmission rate, because the patient dies before transmitting. And the COVID-19, it's like it's a very balanced virus. It's something like, okay, it transmits, but it kills as well. And it has some very crazy characteristics. Like, for example, 30% of the patients do not have any symptom. So basically, you have like 30% of the patients that are they are invisible to the system, because you do not know this guy has a disease. That's I mean, other diseases, for example, HIV, they have this stealth mode as well, but not like in 30% of the patients. So we are talking about a very significant percentage of patients that do not have the symptoms. And you have like 55% of the patients that do not have like a very critical condition. So we are talking about something like a flu, like a mid-level flu. So it's crazy, because a lot of patients do not realize they have the disease. So basically they have the virus, they transmit for a lot of people, and basically do not understand they have the disease. And so we are talking about like maybe 85% of the patients. So that's a problem, because when you do not have the symptoms, when the patient does not know he or she is sick, how the doctor can know that? I mean, because how do you do a test in a guy who does not know he has any symptoms? So it's difficult. And plus to that, we have other problem, that it's how doctors, physicians, lab professionals, I mean, the healthcare sector, how the guys think. because everybody wants the best, the gold standard test. It's like it's something that is very common in healthcare. I mean, when you are talking about healthcare and you are talking about the health of patients, everybody wants, okay, we want the best treatment, we want the best test, we want the best diagnosis. In the case of coronavirus, the best test is the PCR. It's a molecular test. Okay, so okay, let's do a lot of molecular testing, everybody. That was the first plan. I mean, in every country, okay, let's do molecular test, massive molecular testing. Okay, the problem is that PCR was not designed for massive testing. I mean, it's a very difficult, a very complicated test. You have to collect the sample. That's pretty hard to do for PCR because you need a swab that you have to put in the patient's nose and get. It's a complicated collection. After that, you have to send that for a lab, and the lab has to do like a lot of procedures to do a good test. So PCR, it's a very good test when you are testing one patient. But when you have to test like 1 million patients, it's like impossible. So only to show that when you do PCR in one patient, PCR has like 100% of sensitivity. So it's a fantastic test. But right now in China, they are getting like 68% of sensitivity for PCR, because basically they are testing so many people that the collection is not being done very well. I mean, you collect wrong, you do not use the right swab, you do not send change the patient's name, you do a lot of mistakes before the sample gets into the lab. So basically 100% becomes 68%. The same thing is happening here in Brazil for PCR right now. So here in Brazil, one of the best labs in Brazil, they are able to do like 1,000 tests per day. So like one test per day for 200 million patients, it's like, okay, maybe in 1,000 years, they solve the problem. So, and with 70% of the sensitivity. So that's a great challenge. And basically the healthcare sector, they took a lot of time to understand, oh, okay, we cannot do only PCR because it's basically impossible. So we have to do other tests like antibodies tests that are not so good, but maybe it's something that can be done. I heard this week one guy talking and explains very well that the great is the enemy of the good. So basically, if you think, okay, we only can have great solutions and do not start to think, okay, maybe we need only average or good solutions, you have a problem. And the governments and the doctors, the physicians, they took a lot of time thinking, okay, what would be the best solution, the perfect solution? And they should be thinking, okay, what is the possible, the feasible solution? But right now, I'm glad to see, at least here in Brazil, people understand, okay, we cannot do PCR for everybody. We have to do antibody tests, and we are starting to figure out that. So I think that was the biggest challenge. I mean, how to change the view, the personal view of every healthcare professional in the world. That was the challenge. But after some weeks, I think everybody now understands that.
Thank you very much, Marcus. I just want to acknowledge that we have a professor here, Professor Sidney Nakaoto. Thank you for your presence today. He's also from Brazil, Marcus. So, and Daria said that she has a lot of questions, so I'm gonna let her talk.
Now I'm going to start. Well, first of all, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here today. It means a lot for us to share these super important conversation. My question for you, Marcus, is It almost feels like today we're in a stage of this global arms race where countries are sort of competing with one another who will have the first one to reach that vaccine or technologies. And I wanted to ask you, all of us, we're all international affairs or public administration students. What do you think are some of the best practices to actually create further cooperations and international partnerships as opposed to a race? And how would you suggest governments or other stakeholders to overcome this challenge, giving a big issue of regulations and approvals that each have so different, like regulations and laws? If you can talk about that.
Perfect. That's a great question. I mean, there's something that happens in healthcare, and that's a challenge as well. It's because healthcare, we are talking about patients' lives. I mean, it's about saving a life, and because of that, innovation, it always something complicated with healthcare. I mean, with healthcare, it's every time it's difficult to put a new innovation in healthcare. It's extremely difficult. One two simple examples. When I created my first software for telemedicine in 2004, we took like 2 years to sell one license of software, because basically the doctors they had fear. Okay, telemedicine, remote patient monitoring, what is this? Oh, we have to take a lot of attention. You are so young. I mean, it will work or not. So 2 years to sell one license of software. Then after a few years, we created a pulse oximeter that nowadays is like sold everywhere in the world. But we took like 1 year and a half, so basically 18 months to get a registration to sell the device. So from Anvisa here in Brazil. So Anvisa, it's the Brazilian FDA. So Anvisa took like 18 months to analyze and give us the permit to sell the product. Sergio and we took like less than 6 months to develop the product. So 6 months to create the device and the technology, 18 months to get all the approvals to sell the device. So what I want to tell you is that it's very slow. Innovation in healthcare, it's always slow. It's slow because it makes sense. I mean, you have to analyze each innovation to see, okay, this innovation makes more good than harm to the patient. That's a fair question. But sometimes, and I mean sometimes, or most of times maybe, all this process is used by the incumbent companies to protect the market. I mean, for example, for me today, I sell a lot of pulse oximeters. So it's very good that new pulse oximeters, they have difficulty to join the market, because for me, that I am already selling my product. So it's good to have this protection from Anvisa or from FDA or from any other body regulator. So what I want to say is that all these regulations, they were created because of good reasons in the past, but with the years, basically the companies like high technologies, I mean, they're good for us because they are protection from you guys. I mean, right now I'm a bit old, I mean, in the market, so it's good to be protected from the new guys coming around. So, but that's something very dangerous, because I mean, you have to understand that very fast it's dangerous, but very slow it's so dangerous as well. So right now with COVID-19, that was the first challenge. Okay, how FDA, how Anvisa, they become faster, because they are not created to be fast. They were created to be slow, and they are trying to do that. I mean, FDA is like registering a lot of products very fast right now, but it's something that it's like a mindset change that is very difficult. And the other change right now is the cooperation between the countries, because basically when COVID-19 took place around the world, China became the Wild West. I mean, you buy a raw material to do a test, like you buy a test in China, and the other company comes and basically offers more money, and they steal your test, and then your test goes to one country, and then the country steals the test, and then you get all the tests, and it comes to your country, and then the government steals your test. So it's a very right now it's like in the Wild West, or sometimes I feel myself like in a Second War movie, because it's like something so crazy. So we produce our tests in Brazil, but we have to buy the raw materials from China, from India, from US, from different countries. And right now we have a map here in the company with different roads. Okay, for example, this material will bring from China, passing from Turkey, because Turkey is not confiscating the raw materials. Okay, no, this product came from United States. It's okay. Oh, this other, no, it cannot be because maybe they took the material. So it's very crazy, and I think maybe the solution for that is that the governments, they have to start thinking about cooperation, because at the end, this competition is basically doing more harm than good for everybody, because every country like now it's closing to be. I mean, for example, if you're here in Brazil, I try to export some tests. Maybe the federal government take my tests in the airport, so I cannot export. I have to sell in Brazil, and the other guys in the United States, they cannot export because they have to sell in the United States. Something in India, something in China, and basically we have a big challenge here. I'm not quite sure how to solve that, because maybe the presidents they should talk, and they understand that, okay, if you keep competing to see who will buy more tests, or who will buy more raw materials to produce tests, or mechanical ventilators and respirators and masks and everything, everybody will die. So right now it's something like we have to be less Adam Smith and maybe more more Nash. I mean, more cooperation against competition. So but it's a challenge, because it's about mindset change, and it's not something so easy to achieve.
Now we have a question from Carmen, and then Bijon. Carmen, if you want to unmute yourself. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Julia. Hi, Marcus. Thanks for taking the time. So my background, I'm actually a graduate from the Master's in Data Science from Columbia. So my background's a bit different from the people who've spoken so far from SIPA. I'm actually interested in learning more about the technology. If you can talk a little bit more about that. You mentioned that you guys are using, IoT and AI essentially to make your diagnostics. Can you talk into a little bit more detail about how that works?
Sure.
And sort of like a second layer to that is, you mentioned when you started, you didn't have any patients in Brazil that were diagnosed with the test that you could, test it on or develop your test on. How did that work, with remotely with patients in China and in other parts of the world? And you also mentioned, when you described the product, that it is based on blood samples, right? As far as I've learned from, my doctor friends were telling me about how the tests here are working, and you alluded to it also, it's like usually done through like a sample from the person's cough and so on, or throat. How is that different from your test that is based on blood?
Okay, perfect. Great questions. First, about the sample, we use blood samples. So basically what we are measuring is not the virus, but actually the antibodies that the body produces to fight the virus. So it's like a serological test. So it's not we do not try to measure the virus antigen. We try to basically measure the antibodies, the presence of antibodies in the blood. So that's why we are using blood as a sample, and not other samples from a swab or something like that. About the technology, it's actually quite simple in the concept. Okay, Inside each capsule, we have some chemical reagents like that. Okay, so for example, this is a test for HIV. Okay, so we have some chemical reagents in here. They are impregnated in paper. So they are basically, we are talking here about paper microfluidics. So they are in paper. You basically, when you put blood here, it happens a chemical reaction, and this chemical reaction makes a change, a visible change. Sometimes it's a change of color, sometimes it's a change of optical density, sometimes it's a change of light. The chemical reaction emits some light. So there's a different, for each kind of test, you have a different chemical reaction and something different that happens. When you put the capsule inside the device here, we cannot, I do not have one open. Outside the device, we have a sensor that detects that. And we have different kinds of leads, okay, that basically with different wavelengths. So basically, we do like a digital copy of the chemical reaction that happens inside the capsule. This information, this digital copy, is sent to the cloud, and then we have artificial intelligence system, basically a neural network that analyzes that. So using some image processing and also other kinds of algorithms. So neural networks is basically what we most use, and the system analyzes that in real time. And after that, we have a healthcare professional that also analyzes the sample with the input from the artificial intelligence, and the person, the human expert, makes a decision. And after that, we produce a medical report, and this medical report is sent to the patient. So everything happens very fast, about in 10 to 15 minutes. So for the patient, it looks like the device is sending the result, but actually this information travels over the internet, and a lot of things happen there. We have the help from different companies to create that. So Microsoft, Intel, and Qualcomm, they basically three big companies from the tech space. They helped us in all this process.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Great. Perfect.
Bijon, do you want to unmute your microphone to ask the question? Or do you want me to read it? Okay. I can unmute you if you prefer. Okay, you are on mute. You can speak.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you for this. I was just wondering, with technology that you create and the tools that you create in an environment like yours, where you're obviously trying to solve to some degree a health problem or a health condition, but how do you feel about, how do you scale activities like this when, let's say, your political scenario is or doesn't believe in it, right? So you're creating a tool for something for you to actually solve a health crisis, but you have an entire political system that does not believe that health crisis exists or has a different philosophy on it. So how do you plan to, maybe not plan to, but how do you approach the difference in philosophies?
Oh, that's an incredible question. I mean, I had to face politics a lot, okay, because of High Lab, actually more than I would like to have, because when we presented to the market in 2017, Brazilian media called me the terror of the labs, the labs terror, something like that. That was the headlines from most journals in Brazil when we presented the technology from High Lab in 2017. So this nickname, the terror of of the labs, it's a cool nickname. If I was like emperor in the 3 centuries ago or something like that, I think it would be a great nickname. But right now, I'd like to. I would prefer something more friendly. Because from 2017 we had to fight against a lot of basically the lobby of some of the biggest labs in Brazil. So they tried in different ways to close our company. So, for example, last year I had to move a lawsuit against Anvisa, that is the Brazilian FDA, to have the right to operate high lab in the pharmacies in Brazil, because basically most labs in Brazil had fear about our company, because at the end we are like a lab based on internet in thousands of different pharmacies in Brazil. So with money from Silicon Valley. So basically it was like the same fear that the cabs had from Uber or the hotels had from Airbnb. I had to face the same problem last year here in Brazil. So we won this lawsuit, but you can imagine right now with COVID-19 that the same guys who lost last year, they are not like, okay, great, now we are friends from High Lab. So we had to deal that with every day. But what we have been doing from beginning is to believe first, not only try to believe in public service, but also I really believe in the society. I mean, the private society, being in people, not because the government is basically something that we create but it's not, they are not the people. I mean, there are different things. So in the beginning of all this fight against COVID-19, we tried to cooperate with a lot of with private hospitals, private pharmacies, private companies, and the startups. So basically to offer our technology with a very low prices to the patients. So that was the first step. So right now, a test here in Brazil with our technology for the patient, it costs only to make a reference. It's something like $20 more or less. So the patient has to pay for doing a COVID-19 test in a pharmacy in Brazil, because we achieved to cooperate with a lot of guys. After we did that, a lot of public governments started to talk. So basically what we did to cooperate with the public service was to get relevance. And we got this relevance working with the private sector. So I believe that you cannot only trust or only hope with the government. Of course, the government can make everything easier, but if they are not your allies, you should find other guys that want to help people, and that's what we did. Right now, we are talking with the federal government in Brazil, with a lot of state governments, cities, a lot of things like that, and everybody's trying to help. I mean, not everybody. I mean, most of the public officers, they are trying to help. But of course, sometimes we have some lobby from private labs and guys who are not so. I'm more worried about market things and not about healthcare. But I would advise that try to find people who also want to help, and just start. I mean, because that's like what you need is critical mass. Because after you get some critical, I mean, when you are alone, you are like a crazy person. Okay, so one guy with one dream is basically a crazy guy. If you convince another guy to that your idea or your dream is not so crazy, okay, two crazy guys now, maybe 3, 4, but there is a moment. I'm not sure about how many people you have to convince that you are not more a bunch of crazy guys. At some moment you become you have critical mass, and you become something else, and then you have a voice, and when you have a voice, people start to listen, and then you can make the difference. So what I would advise you is that find another crazy guy, and then together you try to find a third, and you keep going this way. And after a few guys, maybe a few crazy guys, you become something different.
Bijon, answer you in the chat if you. Pedro, do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Actually, two of them. First of all, thank you for your time and talking with us right now. My question is related, how accurate is your test? Since you said that you create this technology based on AI, can you talk a little bit about more precision and recall of it? Like, I know there's some other tests like that we're doing in the world, like sometimes you need to test twice to identify the virus. And another thing is like, are you thinking, I don't know if you're doing this already, to expand this technology to know, for example, the effect of possible drugs or other tests, like ways like to identify if like some chemicals that could like combat the virus, like I don't know if you're thinking about this, or is there a possibility to use this technology for this kind of purpose? Thank you.
Okay, great. I think first of all, to the accuracy, sensibility, and the specificity, and all other metrics that we use to measure the test. I think we have a very good test right now. I mean, we follow the same standard, the quality standards that the conventional labs follow. So right now, you will not see a huge difference between a serological test with high lab or a serological test in a conventional lab. Okay, it's important to understand, and sometimes people do not see that there is no perfect diagnostics test. I mean, no test is perfect, and there is no perfect chemical kit that, okay, this is the perfect test. There is not something like that. When you do a blood test, it's not so much about the chemicals. It's more about the process. I mean, it's about how much reproducibility and repeatability you can get doing the same test. So it's all about quality control and the process. And I think that's the one of the coolest part about High Lab. We basically have a very good, the artificial intelligence controls all the process. I mean, every step that the user takes is controlled by the artificial intelligence. And that's the main reason why we can get some very good results that are similar to a conventional lab. So it's not, at the end, it's not about some magic chemical reaction. It's only about always repeating the same process. So it's about process. At the end, it's that. I want to make a statement about that. In a lab test, 60% of the errors happen during the blood collection. So before the test. So 60%, it's about the healthcare professional takes a lot of blood or less blood, or makes a mistake in the patient identification, or sends the blood to the wrong place. A lot of mistakes that you can do that. So 60% of the errors happen in this place. And what we do with our system is to basically eliminate the 60% of errors. And so at the end, that's the main reason why we get so good results. Our technology, it's not only designed for healthcare, for human patients. I mean, of course, we can identify diseases, but also we can measure other chemical reactions. But right now, all our focus is about doing the diagnosis of COVID-19. So we could use our technology for other things, but right now we are trying to have like a laser target in only trying to solve this problem, because I believe that's the best thing we can do right now. I mean, I learned something about entrepreneurship and about how a startup should be, and deciding which one target and being able to only see that it's something that at the end you get more success with this approach. So right now, all our technology is all about doing the diagnosis. But you are right, we could use that for other parts in this fight. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you, Albert. Do you wanna? Okay, you're right on.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you for your exposition. It's been very helpful and insightful, I think. So my question is about what you were saying about the supply chain side. So I think it's super interesting. So could you build more into that? And especially like, is there any possibility for you in Brazil to get these things like made in Brazil, or for you in your company to make these supplies that you need? And what about the rest of South America? How is the technology environment like working there in terms of building these supplies that you need for the tests?
That's something great. I mean, I have a fear, to be honest, because everybody is talking about COVID-19 like something like, oh, okay, 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, and China is okay, Korea is okay. I mean, everybody's thinking that is like a short run, or a lot of people are thinking that as a short run. But I understand that COVID-19 will be something that will follow us for something like maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years at least. So I believe that we have a great risk that countries like China and Korea, they basically, the problem returns there because this kind of thing happened 100 years ago during the Spanish flu. I mean, you get an outbreak after it cooled down, and off another outbreak and things like that. So I have a lot of fear that China goes to lockdown again. Because of that, in the beginning of March, we started to prepare here in Brazil industrial plant to produce everything that we need to do the test in South America. So we have been doing that. I believe that maybe in 1 month more, or 1 month, or maybe 2 months, we will be able to produce all the tests in Brazil, basically. So I'm doing that with the help with the Brazilian government. They have been helping us with this project, and we are doing that because we believe it will be very important in a strategic point of view for Brazil and also for America. So we are doing that right now. So that's a strategy that it has been done like 1 month, more than 1 month ago. And of course, it created all the supply chain in Brazil. It's a big challenge. You may imagine that, but we have been doing that. I mean, some of the time I try to create new tests. Other time we are trying to produce more, and some part of the day I'm spending with that, creating basically the full supply chain here in Brazil. I mean, globalization, it's something great, but right now globalization created a huge problem for Brazil, for US, for Europe, for everybody actually, because the COVID-19 affects the airplanes, affects the transportation, affects the relationship between countries. So that's a problem. But we are doing that. So I believe in 1 month, maybe 2 months, we announce that to the market. And I think after that, it will be easier.
That was kind of scary. We are coming to the end of our time. Does anyone else have a question? Well, if you don't speak until I finish the Zoom. But Marcus, thank you very much for doing an amazing job there in Brazil. I think we we need this in Brazil. If nothing else helps us there. But thank you so much. Thank you for spending an hour of your time with us doing this. What I imagine is the most turbulent time for you during this COVID crisis. So thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you, Julia. It was great to participate of this call with all you guys. I mean, it's actually I have been enjoying this last few weeks. I mean, crazy weeks, crazy days, a lot of job, but I think at the end of all this process, I mean, the world will change for better. I mean. The crisis brings also opportunities to evolve, to adapt, to become ourselves better as human beings. So I believe a lot of that. I mean, I believe that at the end, the cooperation between companies, between governments, between people will be something a good aspect about everything that we are challenging right now. So. It was my pleasure to talk with all you guys. I'm very glad to have been invited. It's an honor. Okay.
Thank you, Marcus. It was honored to receive you here.
Oh, great. Yeah, sure. This is the new here.
The new here.
Okay, guys. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.